Power does not announce itself. It operates quietly in conversations, decisions, and silences. You are already inside it, even if you believe you are not playing. Every time you adjust your words, hold back a thought, or read a room, you are responding to invisible rules. Some people learn them instinctively. Others pretend they do not exist, and pay for that innocence later. Feeling overlooked is not bad luck. It is feedback. Power rewards awareness, not intention. Once you notice this, nothing feels hostile. Only clear and perception becomes sharper, calmer, and harder for anyone else to quietly control you. Machiavelli is misunderstood because he refused to lie to himself. He watched how people behave when fear, ambition, and survival are involved, then wrote without decoration. He did not ask how humans should act. He observed how they actually do. That is why his thinking survives centuries of changing morals. Cruelty was never his message. Accuracy was. He understood power as something neutral, shaped by the hands holding it. When you read him this way, strategy replaces judgment, and clarity replaces outrage. It invites calm analysis, emotional distance, and a quieter sense of personal control over situations and people everywhere. Truth feels solid, but perception decides outcomes. People do not react to what is real. They react to what appears consistent, confident, and familiar. An honest effort can be ignored if it looks weak, while a flawed move can succeed if it looks deliberate. This is why frustration grows when fairness fails. The world does not reward accuracy. It rewards coherence. Once you accept this, you stop arguing with reality. You begin watching how reactions form, where attention flows, and why certain impressions survive scrutiny. Power begins when you understand that appearances shape belief, and belief quietly becomes the only truth that matters. This awareness replaces outrage with observation and turns confusion into calm. Strategic patience over time for you. Visibility is not about being noticed. It is about timing. Constant presence feels safe, but it quietly erodes authority. When you are always available, your value becomes predictable. Strategic absence creates space for curiosity and respect. Stepping back is not retreat, it is calibration. You allow others to feel your absence, to question, to wonder. This removes the pressure to perform and replaces it with quiet control. The most powerful figures appear exactly when needed, then withdraw before familiarity dulls impact. Restraint signals confidence, while overexposure signals neediness, even when intentions are good and effort is genuine. Learning this shifts anxiety into patience and turns silence into an unspoken advantage that others feel but cannot name or easily challenge itself. People judge through stories, not data. Whoever defines the sequence of events defines meaning. If you speak first, frame early, or stay silent long enough, others fill gaps for you. Narrative ownership is subtle because it feels natural. It shapes memory, blame, and praise without direct force. This is why quiet individuals often hold unseen leverage. They let assumptions work on their behalf. Control the story, and reactions follow automatically. You are no longer defending actions. You are guiding interpretation, which is far harder for anyone to challenge. Once this clicks, competition becomes observation, and influence feels effortless rather than forced or loud in public moments, always, and private judgments. Kindness becomes dangerous when it leaks emotion. Controlled warmth is different. It is deliberate, measured, and free from expectation. You offer respect, patience, and fairness, but you do not attach your identity to how it is received. This protects you from resentment. Many people give endlessly, hoping generosity will be remembered. Instead, it becomes invisible. When warmth is controlled, it feels rare and intentional. People value what feels chosen, not automatic. You remain approachable without being driven. This shift changes how others respond. They sense boundaries without hostility. Generosity stops being a weakness and becomes a signal of inner stability rather than a request for validation. It keeps your center intact even when appreciation never arrives or recognition follows later. Coldness is misunderstood as cruelty, but selective coldness is precision. It appears when respect is ignored or lines are crossed. Silence, distance, and delayed response create tension without confrontation. People feel the shift immediately. They begin recalibrating their behavior, searching for balance. This is not punishment. It is feedback. You stop explaining, stop chasing, stop soothing discomfort that is not yours. Fear of being disliked fades because approval is no longer your currency. When warmth is withdrawn calmly, it highlights its value. Others learn that access to you is conditional, not guaranteed, and influence grows quietly through absence. This restraint feels unsettling at first, but it restores balance and self-respect over time without apology, explanation, or emotional leakage from you. Power often tilts toward the one who needs less. Emotional asymmetry is not indifference. It is independence. When you care less about outcomes, reactions, or approval, pressure shifts away from you. Others sense this imbalance and adjust. They invest more, explain more, and reveal more. You stay centered. This is not about withholding humanity, but reclaiming it. When your value is internal, external leverage weakens. You stop negotiating your worth through effort or emotion. Caring less does not harden you. It frees attention, restores dignity, and quietly returns control to where it belongs. This shift ends exhaustion and replaces chasing with calm self-command that no one else can take away. Direct force invites resistance. Indirect power slips past defenses. It works through suggestion, timing, and positioning rather than pressure. When influence is invisible, it feels natural to those affected. They believe decisions are their own. This is why loud authority often fails while quiet figures shape outcomes. You do not need to dominate a room to guide it. A well-placed comment, a subtle delay, or strategic alignment can redirect momentum without friction. This approach suits those who observe before acting. It conserves energy and avoids conflict. Influence grows strongest when it feels effortless, when no one feels pushed, and no one knows exactly how the shift happened. Speed feels powerful, but patience controls the board. When you let others move first, they reveal intentions, limits, and weaknesses. Every early move gives information. Waiting is not hesitation. It is collection. Impulsive action feels decisive, but often traps the actor inside their own momentum. Patience creates space. Others grow restless, overextend, or contradict themselves. You gain clarity while they lose it. This reverses pressure. The one who waits holds the advantage because choice remains open. When you finally act, it appears precise, inevitable, and difficult to challenge. Restraint builds suspense without effort and turns time into leverage rather than an enemy. Authority does not need to be owned to be used. Borrowed authority comes from aligning with systems that already command respect. Titles, traditions, processes, and reputations carry weight long before you arrive. When you move through them wisely, their credibility extends to you. This avoids direct competition and reduces resistance. You appear supported rather than those climbing quietly understand this instinctively. They let structures speak on their behalf. Influence grows through association, timing, and positioning instead of confrontation. By standing where authority already exists, you amplify your presence without noise and gain leverage that feels legitimate, stable, and difficult to question. Under pressure, people do not become unpredictable. They become consistent. Stress strips away polish and exposes habits. Some rush to speak, others freeze. Some seek approval, others blame. These patterns repeat because they feel familiar and safe to the person experiencing them. Once you notice this, behavior stops feeling personal. You begin watching reactions instead of absorbing them. This creates distance without distrust. You are not hunting flaws. You are recognizing rhythms. Awareness sharpens quietly. It does not make you suspicious. It makes you prepared. Predictable weakness is not a judgment. It is a map of how people move when control feels threatened. Seeing this clearly allows calm response while others repeat mistakes without realizing why they feel exposed internally. Desire pulls harder than logic. People move toward what feels missing, not what makes sense. Attention, security, recognition, belonging. When something is unmet, behavior bends around it. This is not manipulation through force. It is alignment. You listen for what people want but cannot ask for openly. Small gestures gain weight when they touch that absence. Resistance lowers because it feels voluntary. Influence grows when you do not demand, only position. The goal is not control. It is understanding. Once desire is visible, actions become predictable, and outcomes shift without pressure or conflict. This awareness keeps you calm, curious, and observant, turning human motivation into quiet leverage rather than domination without triggering fear, resistance, or defensiveness in others over time. Fear and hope both move people, but extremes break trust. Too much fear creates rebellion or paralysis. Too much hope invites laziness and illusion. Balance keeps attention sharp. When consequences exist but optimism remains, people stay engaged. This applies inward as well. If you scare yourself, clarity collapses. If you comfort yourself too much, discipline fades. Stability lives between pressure and possibility. Mastery comes from holding both without leaning fully into either. This balance grounds judgment and keeps strategy human rather than mechanical. It prevents emotional extremes from hijacking decisions and allows long-term power to feel steady, ethical, and internally controlled without losing flexibility or awareness under changing circumstances. Calmly, authority rarely arrives in a dramatic moment. It forms quietly through consistency, reliability, and time. Gradual authority feels invisible because no single step looks threatening. People adjust without resistance. They begin to defer, consult, and trust before realizing why. This pace protects you from backlash. Sudden dominance invites challenge, but slow presence feels natural. Long-term thinkers understand this instinctively. They let patterns speak instead of declarations. Over time, your role solidifies, not through force, but through expectation. When authority becomes normal, it no longer needs defense. It feels inevitable, earned, and stable, making opposition unnecessary and exhausting for anyone considering it without urgency, noise, or visible struggle. Authority settles deeply into routines. People stop questioning daily over long periods naturally. People stay loyal to what they rely on. Strategic dependence is built by becoming useful in specific, irreplaceable ways. Not helpful to everyone, but essential to the right few. Popularity fades. Necessity endures. When others benefit from your competence, insight, or stability, loyalty forms quietly. They protect what supports them. This shifts focus from being liked to being needed. Leaders who understand this stop chasing approval. They refine value. Dependence grows when removal feels risky, not when presence feels pleasant. Over time, influence locks in through function, not emotion, and power stabilizes without force or demand. Usefulness compounds quietly, creating loyalty that survives mood shifts, criticism, and change because systems adjust around your contribution without needing constant reassurance or praise. Conflict feels powerful, but it drains attention and invites opposition. Avoidance is not weakness when it is intentional. Peace can be tactical. By removing friction, you conserve energy and deny others a battlefield. Many conflicts exist only because egos need release. When you refuse to engage, momentum collapses. This does not mean surrender. It means choosing terrain carefully. Calm responses disarm aggression and expose insecurity without effort. For defensive minds, this brings relief. You stop bracing for impact. Strategy becomes smoother, quieter, and more sustainable when peace is used as positioning rather than virtue. This approach preserves leverage while keeping emotional costs low over long timelines and outcomes predictable consistently. Strength comes from options. When there is only one path, pressure multiplies and mistakes feel fatal. Hidden exit paths remove that weight. They do not mean planning escape in fear, but maintaining flexibility in calm. Alternatives keep judgment clear. You move differently when you know you are not trapped. Others sense this steadiness. Desperation disappears. You negotiate, decide, and observe without urgency. Risk-aware minds understand this instinctively. Security is psychological before it is practical. When exits exist, even unused, confidence stabilizes. You stop clinging to outcomes and start choosing them. Safety is no longer something you chase. It becomes something quietly built into your position, reducing anxiety while increasing control without anyone else needing to know your margins or contingencies. Authority weakens when everything is revealed. Controlled exposure protects influence by limiting access. Mystery is not deception. It is preservation. When people know less, they assume more. Overexposure invites familiarity, and familiarity erodes respect. Quiet personalities thrive here. You share enough to be understood, but not enough to be predictable. This creates space for projection and curiosity. Others fill gaps with their own assumptions, often favorably. Boundaries form naturally. You are present, yet unreadable. This balance keeps attention focused without explanation. Power remains intact because it is not fully mapped. What cannot be fully seen cannot be easily challenged, dismissed, or controlled by others. Mystery slows judgment, sustains intrigue, and keeps authority stable over time without effort or performance. Nothing collapses faster than rigidity. Environments shift, people change, and rules evolve. Survival belongs to those who adapt without clinging to past versions of themselves. Self-renewal is internal. It is the ability to let go of identities, strategies, and habits that no longer serve. This does not require drama. It requires honesty. When you update quietly, others notice stability rather than change. You remain relevant without announcing transformation. This flexibility prevents stagnation and protects against sudden loss. Power that renews itself stays alive. It does not peak and fade. It adjusts, reshapes, and continues forward, ready for whatever replaces the present without fear, nostalgia, or attachment to old victories or failures. Few people see the full picture. These laws exist scattered in books, anecdotes, and experience, but never presented as a complete system. Most advice focuses on one skill or another: charisma, negotiation, or control, but ignores the interplay. When learned together, they form a framework that anticipates behavior, manages perception, and preserves authority simultaneously. This knowledge feels rare because it is. It is not flashy, popular, or easy to share without context. Understanding it positions you quietly above the noise. You sense patterns others miss. Decisions become deliberate, outcomes less random, and influence more stable. The exclusivity is not boastful. It is clarity. Those who grasp it feel a subtle, unspoken advantage, and the world begins to reveal itself in ways others fail to notice. True power is not in domination. It is in unreadability. Being unpredictable, calm, and measured creates respect without aggression. People cannot push against what they cannot define. You act, react, and withdraw with deliberate precision, maintaining composure in every scenario. Ruthlessness is visible and often resented. Clarity is quiet and unassailable. When your mind is steady, your presence carries authority without demand. You do not need to intimidate or prove yourself. Others adjust instinctively. Power becomes a natural extension of thought and observation, leaving you grounded, confident, and prepared. It is not about winning over others. It is about mastering yourself and moving through the world with strategic calm that cannot be shaken, questioned, or hurried.